Alright, so for this month's episode of Honored Metal, we're going to do a band that is fairly well respected, very well known, but usually is a band that, like I said, can kind of garner respect from all aspects of metal. This was definitely a big hit album, and I guess you could say it kind of crossed genres a little bit anyways in a few areas, but we're going to be talking about Slave to the Grind, the second album by Skid Row. Now this particular version is actually just came out in October for a record store day. It is put out by Run Out Groove Records, but the original version was put out in 1991 by Atlantic Records, of course, and was a huge hit. In fact, it was one of maybe the first heavy metal album to ever debut at #1 on the Billboard charts. Now, 2 months later, of course, after this was Metallica's Black Album, which we know was much more of a monster than this one. But at the time, it was just quite a big event in the news to have a band like this come out and debut at #1. So, but like I said, Skid Row, they kind of came up with the whole hair scene, or at least they were kind of lumped in with that. They weren't really a glammy band, but just, I guess the look and all the bands that came out at the time. And their debut album, which was self-titled Skid Row, came out in 1989 in January, and it was a huge hit all on its own. Had anthemic songs like Youth Gone Wild, and then a couple ballads that were mega hits like 18 in Life and I Remember You. These are huge monster hits. The old every band back then had to have a ballad in black and white video, so Skid Row followed suit with that, but they definitely seemed a little bit harder and a little more clever about some of their songwriting. And then with this album, they definitely took that much further. They went a little bit heavier in their sound. In fact, the title track is almost thrashy, definitely a much more aggressive style. And a lot of these songs in here, although there's several ballads on this one, but they were more bluesy, I guess you say. You hear a lot of blues influence, a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan, a lot of even some Jimi Hendrix in there, and like I said, very well respected band. Not only was this much heavier, they took this band, this album, they toured on, and they took out bands like Pantera, they took out Megadeth. It did really well, just kind of, like I said, crossing genres. Even Soundgarden toured with them, so just some big stuff happened with this band at the time. These guys actually formed originally in 1986 in New Jersey, and when they originally formed, Sebastian Bach was not in the band. He was actually brought in later to replace their original singer, but it was formed by Dave the Snake Sabo and the bass player Rachel Bolan. And Dave Sabo was really good friends with John Bon Jovi when they went to high school together, and they played in their first bands together. And they were so tight that they actually made an agreement back then that whoever got signed and famous first, whoever made it first, would help out the other one. And Bon Jovi actually lived up to that. Bon Jovi was the first one to get a big hit album out there, and basically what happened was Bon Jovi's manager, Doc McGee, who of course was very famous at the time for also taking care of Kiss and Motley Crue and bands like that, and he actually scored the deal for Skid Row and got them signed to Atlantic, and that's the start of their first album, and massive success, of course, that they had with that. The debut album actually went 5 times platinum, so it had a really good stepping stone to work off. So that way, when Slave to the Grind came out, like I said, massive hit, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200. And of course they went right out and they toured with Guns N' Roses off of this album first, and then like I said, did their own tour where they had bands like Pantera and Soundgarden and stuff. So these guys are really hard working when it came to touring. I saw them the first time, I think, open for Bon Jovi, so that was quite a while ago actually. And saw him a couple times after that, and I've seen him, recently. Well, I've seen Sebastian Bach recently, I should say. We'll get more to that in a minute. After this album, they put out in 1993 the Subhuman Race album, which actually, it's a pretty cool album, but it just didn't get as much notice as their other stuff. And after that, well, that was pretty much it for this lineup before Sebastian Bach and the rest of the band went their separate ways. And since then, neither of them has really recaptured that magic. Let's face it, if you go to see either of these bands, you're wanting to hear the old stuff. When we go see Sebastian Bach, I saw Sebastian Bach only maybe 2 years ago, and he still has the pipes, still has a great sound to his voice, and that was one of the big appeals to this band, of course, was just what a powerful voice Sebastian Bach had. Of course, all the great musicians in the band as well. It was just a perfect blend, and it's a shame that they can't see past their differences now and bring back that old magic. But yeah, since then, really nothing new that has really captured the audience attention that much. Sebastian Bach puts out stuff, Skid Row with the new singer puts out stuff, but everyone goes hoping to hear all the old stuff. And I believe when I did see Sebastian a couple of years ago, it was a lump concert with Ace Frehley, and I think Firehouse was there, and Wiener, and a whole bunch of bands all together, and kind of reflecting back in the 80s. And pretty much Sebastian Bach did almost all old Skid Row stuff. He did one or two songs maybe of his own, but that was, nobody really cared that much about that stuff. So anyway, Sebastian Bach, like I said, great vocalist. I've never been able to get into him as a person. He's kind of obnoxious, so I guess I kind of see why maybe his bandmates had a hard time dealing with him. Just listening to him talk, he seems like a great guy and all, but I actually was interested in reading his biography, 18 in Life, and I decided to go with the audiobook, not realizing that Sebastian Bach narrates his own book. I got a chapter in and said, fuck this, I can't listen to this guy talk anymore. So stick to singing, that's just my opinion. Anyway, let's talk about this actual album. This is a hell of an album. Slave to the Grind. So again, this one was recorded by produced by Michael Wagner, and I think they used a couple different studios to record it and mix it. The album cover there is actually painted by David Bjerk. That is actually Sebastian Bach's father. He actually did this big mural, and you can actually see more of it on the inside of the album cover here. And if you ever see Sebastian Bach, he does a lot of, little videos for Instagram and stuff at home, and you can usually see this hanging up in his house. It's a big, massive painting, so that's pretty cool that they used, family art on this. But anyway, so yeah, let's get into the music itself. We'll go through these tracks and, hear a little bit here and there. Of course, the album opens with Monkey Business, which, we've all heard that one many times. And of course, it's a great song, and it was a great first release. This is a really smart song for them to use for announcing their coming album, because it just had a really good attitude to it, and kind of a dirty rock feel, real aggressive, but, just a little different style that stood out as not glam and not hair metal, and just kind of something a little bit more unique to it. Really kick-ass song, and of course, like I said, we all know the song. Monkey Business is pretty much, as you would guess, it's about drug addiction and just being caught up in street life, so to speak. Track number 2 is the title track, and it's Slave to the Grind. Interesting things about this song. Number 1, the version that appears on the album was actually a recorded demo version of the song. Apparently, when they went to record the full album, they just couldn't capture the intensity of the original, so they actually just kept the original demo, and that's what you hear on the album. Also interesting was that these guys were really set in doing things their own way and not necessarily commercial. The record label wanted the video to have a bikini-clad model in the video, and the band wasn't having it because the song had nothing to do with female sexuality, and they just thought it was stupid, and so they basically vetoed it and made their own video. This song really is the song that kind of crosses over into a more thrashy vibe. I was playing in a band at the time that we were doing death and thrash stuff, and we actually played a cover of this song because it was just more heavy and aggressive and mean, and it just kind of fit that kind of style. It's just kind of why they were able to branch over with those kind of bands. So check this out. This is from Slave to the Grind.
I'm so stuck inside this rubber room. I got a bunch of clogs that leads me blind. I'm just another kid in this assembly line. Whoa, no. The noose gets tighter around my throat, but I ain't at the end of my rope, 'cause I won't be the one left behind. You can't be king of the world if you're slave to the grind. Tear down the rational slave. You can't be king of the world if you're slave to the grind. Get it.
Track number 3 is called The Threat. And the threat is basically just, a refusal to fall in line and follow mediocrity. Track number 4 is one of their bluesy ballad kind of songs. This is a song called Quicksand Jesus, and a really pretty song. This actually has a lot to do with just one questioning faith and religion and why one should have to follow such things. So check this out. Track number 5 is called Psycho Love, and this has to do with, again, a lot of these songs, they seem to focus on things that they've seen in street life and drug addiction. This has to do with prostitution and drug addiction, actually. Track number 6 is called Get the Fuck Out. This is one of my favorite songs on the album. Actually, what's interesting is that they actually had to release 2 versions of the album. One that was considered the uncensored one that was the censored or clean version. They had to have a version that they could put out in Walmart. So Get the Fuck Out was one that most people really wanted. And then if you went to Walmart, you got the clean version with a song called Beggar's Day on it. So yeah, I really dig this song. It's a little bit rude, I guess. It's kind of a message to the one-night groupies. So here's Get the Fuck Out. Track number 7 is called Living on the Chain Gang, and this has to do with just looking at problems with the system in the world around them. It's looking at political leaders and religious leaders and problems with, police arresting small-time criminals and big criminals getting away. So just an interesting look at bucking the system. Track number 8 is called Creep Show, and Creep Show just has to do with a psychotic girlfriend. Yeah, we've all been there, right? Track number 9 is called In a Darkened Room. This is another one of their ballad-ish songs, but also a really nice, beautiful, bluesy lead to it. Again, definitely has a Hendrix/Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of a vibe to it. The lyrical content basically has to do with the idea of questioning one's faith while looking at a really cold and darkened world around. Track number 10 is called Riot Act. It's got kind of a punkish vibe, which is really not a surprise from Rachel Bolan, who really has a lot of punk influence in his writing style. Riot Act basically has to do with rebelling against societal norms. Track number 11 is Mud Kicker. I always liked this one as just having a real mean guitar riff to it. Nice, tough sound. Mud Kicker is the idea of those who are in power sort of looking down on someone, like a musician, somebody who is, not going with the flow, so to speak, or a rebel. The final track on the album is Wasted Time, and this is another balladed song, and it's kind of a sad but really beautiful sounding song. Basically has to do with kind of reaching out to a friend who is lost to drug addiction, and basically the kind of person who would rather cling to their addiction and almost forfeit their friendships for it. So interesting way to wrap up the album, actually. Now, aside from that, this version, of course, comes with several extras. It comes with Beggar's Day also, the other track for the clean version of the album, or the Walmart version. And actually, Beggar's Day is actually a really cool song as well. But, it was, like I said, usually one or the other. This, of course, has both. It also has a cover of Holidays in the Sun, which is a Sex Pistols song that Skid Row originally recorded for the Make a Difference Foundation album called Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell, which is a really cool album, actually. It's basically just a bunch of rock and metal bands that got together and did cover songs. Aside from that, the album also comes with 2 live tracks. One is Get the Fuck Out, which they recorded at Wembley, and also comes with a cover of Delivering the Goods, the Judas Priest song, which they recorded live in Arizona, and Rob Halford, of course, joins them on stage. So pretty cool little extras to have on the albums as well. Now, I kind of showed you the art there, and nicely put together album. It does come with, of course, the lyric sheet, and aside from that, it's a double album, and it comes with red vinyl. So both albums are in that red vinyl. So looks really nice, sounds great, of course. Everything about this is a nice package, but overall, I mean, it was just nice to kind of have a re-release of this. This is a great album. It's kind of one of those ones where, you know, you don't necessarily have to be in a specific mood because it's got a little bit of everything. You know, I mean, it's more of a hard rock edge than anything, but it does dive into metal, it dives into blues. It's just got a lot of great attitude to it, and it's just something really cool to add to the old collection. So there it is, Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. This is the Run Out Groove Record Store Day version of the album. So that's gonna be it. Let's get back to the show.